Welcome to our second video on multiplying with fractions. Today we're going to do area models, and these are fraction times a fraction. So in my previous video, we did fraction times a whole number. This one, how do you represent a fraction times a fraction? All right. So things like 1/3 times a half times 3/4. So we're going to get to the standard algorithm of multiplying straight across, but how do we show what this is representing, right? All of us can do arithmetic, but what is it that we're actually doing, showing? What's the bigger picture? Okay. So we're going to use an area model. Technically, they also call it a rectangular fraction model. Okay. The most important part is that we're going to be cutting in two directions. So we're going to go ahead and start off. So you want to start off by drawing the second fraction first. Now, a good question would be why? Okay. So in our last video, we talked about how multiplication is the word of when you're talking about fractions. So this is technically asking us to find 1/3 of 1/2. Okay. You're finding 1/3 of the second thing, it becomes the most important part. The emphasis is put on the second fraction. So that's why we start with the second fraction. Okay, so we're going to start by cutting our area model vertically to represent a half. Now we saw this with our adding fractions video. If you want, you could shade the left side, you could shade the right side, but we just need to shade one of these two sides. So here's my 1/2. So I cut the second fraction vertically, shading 1 out of 2. Okay. Now, here's the deal. We want to find 1/3 of a half. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut horizontally into thirds. Okay. There are two ways you can do it. So you can cut just the blue portion. So I'm actually going to go back to the previous slide because it'll seem a little bit cleaner and clearer, I hope. Okay. But what we're going to do is I want to find 1/3 of this blue portion. So I'm going to cut this into thirds. And I want to shade one of these. One. So this is my answer. Awesome. So my answer is 1 out of, I have no idea. I have no idea the size of that little block. So this is where we have some options ahead of us. So one option is that you extend the cut all the way across. Once you cut your shaded region, you extend it all the way across. And then we can see that this is 1 out of 6. Okay. So that's option one. The second option, which is what you're going to see on the next slide, is that since we know we're going to have to extend our cut anyway, what if we just cut straight across? So here we're going to go all the way across. And in fact, I'm going to overkill this so we can really see that we're going all the way across. And I want one of those regions. Okay. Well, what happens is a nice way to do this is by double shading and having two colors merge. So what we could do is we could shade one out of the 3 cuts. Okay, so here it is. And what I'm interested in is this region where it's double shaded. Okay. All right, so either way, if we use option 1 where we extend the cuts or option 2, which has a double shaded, we're still going to get our same answer, which is 1/6. Okay, now I know it was a little bit weird. We're going to walk through this process a couple of times so you're feeling good about it. And I'm going to show you an online tool you can also use, which is free for your students. Okay, so hang in there, be patient as we go through this, okay? So you'll notice I have 2 area diagrams or area models because I'm going to do it twice, okay? So the very first step that I want you guys to be thinking of is this is asking us what is 1/4 of 1/3. Okay. Emphasis being on that second fraction, so that's the one that we're going to draw first. So if I kind of do like a little cheat sheet here of steps, is that we're going to cut and shade vertically the second fraction. Okay. So we're just going to do it right here. So I'm going to cut this into thirds and shade 1/3. Now, because I'm just going to use one color here, I'm just going to try and be a little bit careful as I'm shading. Okay. So that I'm going to go ahead and label it that, hey, that's a third. Let's talk about what we're doing. Okay. Option one is to just cut now this shaded region and then extend the cuts. So what I would want to do is cut this into four. So I want to know 1/4 of the shaded region. So I'm going to cut into four and shade one. Right? 1/4 would be, I want to cut in four and shade one. Okay, so let's try and cut it into four. So there's into two. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. We got our four pieces. Okay. I want one of those four. It doesn't matter which one we shade. If we shade the top, if we shade the bottom. But what I want to do is I'm going to shade, and when I go to shade, I'm going to shade it the other direction so we can see the crisscross happen in there. Okay, so that's my answer. So this is 1/4 of 1/3. It is one box out of, I have no idea, right? I don't know what that denominator is. So here's where we extend the cuts all the way across, and you're going to see that we end up with 12 total boxes. So my answer is 1/12. So that one double shaded region is 1/12 of the whole original shape. Okay, so that's option one. Maybe that connects with you. Okay. Option two, okay, is that we're going to go and we're going to start off the same way. We're going to cut and shade vertically the second fraction. So I'm going to cut and shade 1/3. Okay, so here's my 1/3. And we're going to carefully shade. It's really nice if you have two colors, but we'll just go with one. Okay, now here's the next step. What you're going to do is you're going to now, so if you're going to use option two, so this would be our second step. So our second step would be that we are going to cut across or horizontally the first fraction and shade. Okay. So I want to cut 4 and shade 1. Okay, so we're going to go all the way across, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of do overkill. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's my 4, and I want to shade one of the 4. And because I'm not using two different colors, I'm going to make sure that I'm shading the other diagonal. Okay, so this would be 1/4. Okay. What I'm looking for is this crisscross pattern. So this is my answer, this overlap. So this overlap is 1 out of a total of 12. Okay. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do another problem. I'll do option 1, where you extend the cuts. Option 2 is the double shade, and you can decide which one you like. There is a third option, which is an online tool. But for right now, we're going to do option 1, extend the cut. Option 2, double shade. Let's go for it. Okay. So I want to do 1/2 of 3/4. And again, to me, I like using that word of. It's saying, oh, 3/4 is the most important part. So I want to start with the 3/4, and then we'll look at what 1/2 looks like. Okay, so I'm going to cut and shade 3/4 first. So let's go with it. I need three of them. Okay, so there's no rule about you can only have one, whatever that numerator is, that's the number that we're gonna shade. Okay, so there's my 3/4, and I'm gonna go ahead and label it. Okay. Now we want half of this. So we want half of the shaded area. So I want to cut into two. Okay, so I'm cutting into two. So there's an upper piece and a lower piece. So that's my cut into two. And I want to shade one of the two. Okay, so this is my final answer. My final answer is 1, 2, 3 out of. Ooh, I don't know. I need to extend the cut to know what size these squares are. Oh man, my cut looked awful there. Okay, it's still getting worse. All right. But what I've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's not three over question mark, it's 3/8. Okay, done. That is our answer. A half of 3/4 is the same thing as 3/8. Okay, if you want to do the double shade method, we're going to start off with that 3/4. I'm all nervous that I'm not going to draw this nice enough, but hopefully it's okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so let's label it. It's 3/4. Oh, if you're going to use option two, we're going to cut all the way across. So I'm going to be very excessive here as I do that, and I'm going to go all the way across, and I want to shade one out of these two. My answer is the double shaded region, which is 1, 2, 3 out of 8. There we have it. Okay. Whew. Problems, of course you can. Of course you can. Here, the hard part about story problems is that sometimes they describe both portions of the area before they decide which one they're going to focus on. So let's just start with the very first sentence. It says Noah mows one half of his property and leaves the rest wild. Okay, Noah, good on you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut in half, and I'm going to label this side as that he mows it, and that over here it's wild. Okay. He decides to use 3/5 of the wild. Okay. We just upgraded one side. We're not talking about the side that he mows. We're talking about 3/5 of the wild. So 3/5 of the wild for a vegetable garden. What fraction of the entire property is used for the garden? Okay. So I want to find 3/5 of the wild. This is going to be our vegetable garden. Wild got upgraded, so that's the side we're going to shade. Now, some students might freak out like, what? We've been shading on the left side and now you're shading on the right. Yeah, it's fine. If they're freaked out by it, we can flip it. Okay. But we're going to work with it the way I've drawn it and see how it goes. Okay. You have two options right now. So you are either a cut just one side and show 3/5 and then extend, or you're the double shade crowd. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do option one because in just a second, I'll redo it with option two. Okay. So here I'm going to cut this into 5, 3, 4, 5, and I want three, any three. Oh, it's 5. So my answer is 3 out of, well, I'd have to extend the cuts to know the size of those pieces, to know that denominator. And it looks like we're going to end up with 10 pieces. So 3/5 of the wild, or 3/5 of a half is 3/10. So that's saying that 3/10 of Noah's property is, I should say 3/10 of the property is the vegetable garden. Okay. Woo! All right. If you like the double shaded instead, okay, I'll do a small one over here. So where we would change it up is after we labeled that this was the side that we mowed, this is the wild, and the emphasis was put on the wild. We would cut all the way across into 5 and shade 3 of them. And I'm looking for the double shaded region. So I'm actually going to just overly scribble so that you guys can really see it. And my answer would be those 3 out of 10. So it's still 3/10 is the amount that we shaded. Okay. Whew. Tools. Are there other tools for your classroom? So there are some great manipulative tools. This one comes from Lakeshore Learning Materials, I believe. I do like this set. What it is that you have basically your first fraction that is in a laminated cardboard that is white and yellow. So like you can see this one is 3/4, and this is a half, and this is 1/4. And then it comes with these little clear transparency shapes that are also cut, but they're shaded in blue. And so they overlap, and you can see, right? If I have this one looks like we have maybe a third over a half. It's kind of hard to tell when I'm just looking at it right here, but it's this idea of overlapping. Not that expensive. However, so I do have a little bit of a complaint. It has its limits. So like you only get like 6 of the transparent cards and only so many of the others. So it's almost like you need an expansion pack to be able to do any sort of fraction multiplication. You're limited in the number of problems that you can do with those cards. Now, maybe you're just using them to have an aha moment before they go to their paper, but I will say, as awesome as those are, there's only so many different types of problems you can do with those, okay? Think of your fraction tiles in only certain denominators. Same kind of problem. Okay. However, I did find this, and as you can see, I'm a big fan of this free online tool. And let me go ahead and show you it because it's pretty sweet and easy to use. So this website, geogebra.org, I don't know too much honestly about it, other than it appears it might be maybe some students' senior project or some people who are really interested in creating online programs that people can access. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Great. So here's what it looks like once you open up the link that I've shared. And what's powerful about this is that you can honestly go as big as you want. So let me just first start with the problem we just did, which was a half times 3/5 or 3/5 times a half, depending on which order you want to do it in. Okay, so if we want to do 3/5, there it is. I'm going to come over here and do 1/2, and then you just hit go. Pretty sweet, right? Okay. Maybe it's still not that exciting for you. So maybe we'll do another one. What if we decided to do 1/7 times how about 2/3? Okay. All right. Now, our answer, by the way, I didn't mention this on the previous one. Our answer is this double shaded. So our double shaded is 2 out of, and if we count, we'll have 3 rows of 7 or 21. So 2 out of 21. What I really like about this is that you can do some pretty wacky fractions. I believe you can't go over a denominator of 50, I think might be where it breaks. But I mean, technically you can go as crazy as you want and it'll do it. So this I do like because the other one, even though it's tactile and fun, and again, going to have those aha moments, it is limited by the number of cards you have unless you create your own transparency cards to extend it. This one you can go as big as you want. So it's kind of powerful that you have that available. Keep doing math. We'll see how it goes. That's it for this video. It didn't want to fade, but there it is. Um, Keep practicing those area models, the rectangular fraction models, and see if you like option one or option two, or if you want to go with option three and use the online tool. But lots of ways to learn. Good luck. I hope things are going well for you and keep practicing and learning together. Have a great day, and the next video will be division. So we're going to see how that works out. Until then, bye bye.